Hello, I'm Dr. Kidora, and I'm pleased to introduce the title, Black is a Rainbow Color. Written by Angela Joy, illustrated by Aqua Holmes, and published by Roaring Brook Press in 2020. This picture book features a young African-American girl sitting on her front stoop, pondering the many colors of a rainbow. Yet her color is black, and that color is not in a rainbow. However, she thinks of many beautiful things that are black, promptly drawing them with crayons, all in vivid colors, outlined in black. Black as a crayon tangled in a box. Black as a feather on white winter snow. Black as the dirt where sunflowers grow. My color is black. This narrative poem reads like a song that resounds with familiar symbols and motifs, as an anthem to black-eyed peas, cooking skillets for fry bread, braids, molasses, and magnolia trees. It is for art, for music, for birds in cages that continually sing. The child speaks, celebrating the beauty of black. Black is family, black is community, black is culture. It is love. It is memory. The memory of Thurgood Marshall, Langston Hughes, Maya Angelou, Emmett Till, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Mahalia Jackson, and more. It is also a story of the Great Migration, the Montgomery bus boycott, the Civil Rights Movement, and Dr. Martin's dream. A song that crescendos as it is sung into a huge family tree that wraps the past with the present in its strong, quiet, black limbs. But it is impossible to talk about the lyrical text without simultaneously noting the aesthetic harmony provided in Aqua Holmes' art. Her illustrations are rendered in mixed media with meticulous attention to detail. Even the sidewalks, under walking feet, are comprised of civil rights era newspaper clippings. And the road map filling Thurgood Marshall's double-page spread is covered in squiggly, complementary colored lines, while diagonal trains and tracks speak of his travels as an attorney for the NAACP. My personal favorite illustration is a double-page spread in which black is for stones, bearing witness to prayer. And those stones augment vibrantly hued stained glass window images of the four godmothers of the civil rights movement. Windows like those that portray saints, the faithful, a strong cloud of witnesses. Mamie Till Mobley, Ella Baker, Marion Wright Edelman, and Fannie Lou Hamer. The finale of the story, poem, song is set in the present, featuring the Black Lives Matter marchers and everyday people and family before concluding when the little girl explains. So you see, there is no black in rainbows, no black in green or blue, but in my box of crayons, black is a rainbow too. Angela and Aqua contextualize the protagonist's story in an encore of back matter, providing crucial information helpful for adults who will share this with children. Black is a Rainbow Color meets all Jane Addams Children's Book Award criteria and does so with literary and aesthetic excellence. This title can spark some children's desire to share about their own black history and culture, and it can also promote dialogue to deepen what may be new information for some and familiar, comforting information for others. This book can help all children gain necessary understandings to begin moving into activism in ways that feature the leadership of African Americans, and particularly Black women and girls, so as to advance equity, justice, and peace. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Angela Joy, author of Black is a Rainbow Color, and I am thrilled to be here today as a new member of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award family. Thank you so much for honoring our book today. When I began writing Black is a Rainbow Color, I wasn't doing it for love of the craft. In fact, I was new to writing and didn't really have an idea of what I was doing. But what I did have was a deep commitment to bringing diversity to children's bookshelves. My own children were small at the time, and I was having difficulty locating books that reflected their appearance, their perspectives, their cultural norms. And this was really disheartening to me. So, because I was home with them, because I had time, flexibility, opportunity, and vision, I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring as an author, trying to be the change I wanted to see. It was a long process, a process with excellent teachers. My agent, Jamie Weiss-Chilton, and my editor, Connie Shu, helped me to polish, define, and trim my ideas so that we could form a firm foundation for the brilliant artwork of Aqua Holmes. The outcome was more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. Equally as beautiful has been the reception for Black is a Rainbow Color, especially that from the Jane Addams Peace Association. Being honored by the Jane Addams Peace Association, an organization that has worked for decades to bring social justice and peace to the nation and the world, is a special prize. It's affirmation that we're on the right track in our pursuit of bookshelf diversity, and it tells us that we're starting in the right place, with children. I can't tell you how much that means to me. 2020 was rough. My hometown is Minneapolis, and George Floyd was killed not far from where I attended high school. My current community has struggled to find its better angels in the midst of political and racial discord. The only thing that kept me from hiding under my bed and never coming out were those Zoom calls. Zoom calls with children all over the country who still had hope. Children who had a vision of love and peace. Children who, regardless of hue, would sing along with the playlist, "Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud," or "Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty." Children who, with new language and permission and tools, were willing to go out there and change the world. The Jane Addams Peace Association gives children those tools. And for that reason, I am so proud to be part of their arsenal, an arsenal of peace. So, many congratulations to the outstanding class of 2021 Book Award winners, nominees, and honorees. As I say to my students, shine your shade, for at the end of the storm, when the sun comes peeking through, the rainbow is you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Aqua Holmes, and I'm speaking to you from my hometown of Roxbury, Massachusetts. I'm happy to be here with you today to celebrate the Jane Addams Peace Award for books that help young readers reflect on and question our world. I'm also very excited to accept an honor for my role as illustrator for Black is a Rainbow Color by Angela Joy. I was surprised to find out that the Jane Addams Peace Award has been around doing this important work since 1953, before I was born. When I first read the manuscript for Black is a Rainbow Color, I could imagine all of the wonderfully rich conversations that would come out of reading it, together as a family, in the classroom, and even independently. What does it mean to look for your color, your culture in the world, and not find it anywhere? Black is a color that makes other colors shine. We find this evident in the coloring book, a mainstay of early childhood and part of my inspiration for the illustrations. As you can see, in coloring books, children are offered Black outlined illustrations and then given the chance and the choice about how they will color their world. Will the hat be red or blue? Will the bird be yellow or purple? What color will the characters be? During my childhood, there was no such thing as a box of crayons celebrating diversity. Sometimes you made your color from overlapping 2 or even 3. The flesh tone crayon was an unfortunate tool of white supremacy hidden in the coveted 64 crayon box with built-in sharpener. Along with the flesh-colored Band-Aid, we accepted it as children, not really understanding all that it meant. I also imagined, while reading this manuscript, being a parent or educator faced with this intelligent and insightful question from a child. In Angela Joy's text is everything they would need to have a reflective and spirited conversation with that child or even in the classroom. A conversation that touches on history, music, family, political activism and collective movement, everyday cultural icons, and much, much more. Here are some early sketches of my work, and you can see that the power of the Black line is already evident. It was such a joy to celebrate icons like Billie Holiday, Nina Simone, Thurgood Marshall, and Fannie Lou Hamer, as well as the Black Lives Matter movement and the Civil Rights movement. Right now, I'm thrilled to be part of this generation's book publishing industry, pushing boundaries, challenging norms, breaking rules, building new literary and illustrated worlds for all children to explore and see themselves. Thank you to the Jane Addams Award Committee for recognizing Black is a Rainbow Color as worthy of honor. There are so many who made this book what it is. First, Angela Joy for realizing that a moment between she and her daughter could help parents begin conversations with their children. To the publisher for inviting me to be a part of this rainbow. And an extra special thanks to them for having patience as I healed from breaking my right dominant arm in the middle of this project. The gift basket and card you sent helped me feel that my injury was not a huge problem, but just a little bump in the road. I wasn't sure I could finish the project, but with your support and encouragement, the book was completed. I want to thank my agent, the illustrious Ruben Pfeffer, who always finds such interesting and rewarding projects for me to be a part of. And finally, to my granddaughter Song, who inspires me every day as she evolves into her own storytelling artistry and understanding of her cultural heritage. I always say that every book is a universe and a university, with lessons for the creators as well as the readers. From Black is a Rainbow Color, I learned many ways to express the pride and love I have for my culture. Black is history, Black is family, Black is memory, Black is community. Black is the love that lives inside of me. Weaving, wrapping, lifting, laughing, hoping, grasping, quiet, strong. My color is Black. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Jongsan Ui. I am honored to present the Jane Addams Peace Association's honor for books for younger readers. Ocean Speaks: How Murray Tharp Revealed the Ocean's Biggest Secret, written by Jess Keating, illustrated by Hickey, and published by Tundra Books. One of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award criteria is the excellent portrayal of people working for power and equality for women throughout the world. Toward this end, the 2021 selection committee recognized the importance of Ocean Speaks, which introduces Murray Tharp's story. As a young girl, Marie liked to explore the world with curious eyes, and she wanted to pursue her passion for science. But as women were not accepted in the sciences at the time, it was not until America entered World War II, sending its men away to war, that she was given the opportunity to do so. Later, when she was hired at a laboratory in New York City, she wished she could join the team who sailed to explore the ocean floor. But women were considered bad luck on boats. Marie had to stay in the lab where she spent numerous hours analyzing the data that her male colleagues sent, mapping point after point inside her small office. As Marie put in endless hours of hard work, her map grew bigger and bigger and bigger. As a result, she discovered the deep valleys and mountains of the mid-Atlantic Ocean ridge. But her findings were negated by her colleague and her significant contributions to the field, which led to the understanding of continental drift and plate tectonics were not recognized by other scientists. Now we know that it was Marie Tharp who discovered what the Atlantic Ocean floor looks like. This concise and child reader-friendly narrative with Katie Hickey's ocean color scheme illustrations, many of which are set on a grid-ruled background reminiscent of cartography paper, introduced Marie's work as an oceanographic cartographer during a time when female scientists were unwelcome and unappreciated. In the small office filled with boxes, Marie is working on the map at her desk with her back hunched and eyes glued to the map. Marie's male colleague is watching her work with a face full of doubts and distrust. The secret of the ocean floor that Marie discovered is illustrated across a 3-page spread in the middle of the book that waits to surprise readers as they unfold it with their hands, and which reminds us of the enormous size of Marie's map. This wonderfully executed picture book brings Marie Tharp's story alive for young readers. Jess Keating's words encourage children to see that gender is not an obstacle to becoming great scientists. It helps them to realize what a hard-working scientist Marie Tharp was, and to imagine that they too can become someone like her, the woman who showed the world the biggest secret of the Atlantic Ocean. Thank you.
Hello everyone, it is so wonderful to make this video for you today as a huge thank you for this incredible honor. For Ocean Speaks to be recognized as an honor book for the Jane Addams Children's Book Award is just absolutely incredible, and it's not something I take lightly. I know the Jane Addams Peace Association recognizes stories of peace, social justice, and equity, and this honor feels close to home for me because that is exactly the feel that I was hoping to embody in telling Marie's story in Ocean Speaks. So this book is all about Marie Tharp, who was a woman with an intelligence and vision that was largely before her time. And after being told she couldn't join her male colleagues on a research ship, she took what could have been a really demoralizing and limiting situation and turned it into an opportunity. This book began a lot like Marie's journey. It didn't look like much. It was just a mess of post-it notes and index cards and loads of research in various notebooks. But the more I learned about Marie's story and the more I learned about her, the more motivated and driven I became to make sure this book became a reality and reached readers all over the place. Marie deserves to be known, and the children of today also deserve to know about her. They deserve to know that even though they may feel small or ignored or underestimated, there are still amazing paths ahead of them. They deserve to know that they can change the world no matter where they're from exactly where they are. So again, thank you so much to the Jane Addams Peace Association for this incredible honor. It's a dream to have Ocean Speaks in the world, and I think Marie herself would largely enjoy the spirit behind this award and the fact that we're all taking time to share stories that empower each other and other people. So let's keep doing exactly that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katie, the illustrator behind Ocean Speaks. Firstly, I want to say a big thank you to the Jane Addams Association for this award. it's a real honour to be recognised by such an amazing cause and to be among really honourable recipients. So thank you very much. I also want to say thank you to Liz and John at Tundra for having me on this project and for their support and their guidance throughout the project on really homing in on those little details, which I think really brought it to life. Another big thank you to my agent Helen for all her support always during all of my work, not just on this project. She's a rock star. And of course a big thank you to Jess Keating, the author, for writing Marie's story and instigating something which I think will inspire lots of young people going forward. So thank you to all those people. It's amazing to have this award with you guys. A big part of the project for me and for any sort of factual based project is that it has to be immersive, but you also have to be really homing in on those facts, because unlike a traditional sort of fictitious picture book, this story is based on fact, so everything has to be really accurate throughout the project. A spread which I think shows that really well is this spread of Marie in her father's office while she's still a child. So during the process of this project, I did quite a lot of visual research on the time and the place that the story is set and the environments, and it was really important to make sure that these little details in the spread really were accurate to the time period and the science that was being discovered at the time. The way I went about doing this spread was a lot of these elements are hand painted and then digitally assembled in Photoshop. So some examples of the hand painting are things like this. So you can see like the fossil, which is up here, and then also lots of the plants and those sort of bits and pieces, and then also in the blackboard spread it was really important in that spread as well. So obviously all these little books are books that actually came out sort of within 50 years of the time set of this book, but also the science on the blackboard it was important that it was actually things that Marie had been learning about at the time. So I got in touch with Jess, the author, to talk about what was she had been learning, what was she been studying at the time, and she gave me lots of examples of scientific equations and things that I still don't understand or still don't know anything about, but for me it was really important for those details to be really accurate. So that's kind of a little insight into my side of the project, but again, a huge thank you to the association and to everybody involved in the project. It was really wonderful to work on, and I hope it will go on to inspire lots of young people in the future. Thank you.
Greetings, my name is Jackie Marshall Arnold, and I am honored to be here presenting Finish the Fight, the brave and revolutionary women who fought for the right to vote, written by Veronica Chambers and her co-authors, Jennifer Schuessler, Amy Padnina, Jennifer Harlan, Sandra Garcia, and Vivian Wang, and published by Versify, an imprint of Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. The fight for the right to vote may never be complete. As we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, and as we watch current events that have threatened our core democratic principles of every single person having the right to vote, this book is a critical piece for our lives and for our libraries. Through the pages of this book, the Jane Addams children's book criteria shine through. In particular, our work to ensure justice for all people, and our work for power and equity for women throughout the world. In the text, Finish the Fight, Chambers and the New York Times staff celebrate women who fought for the right to vote. But even more importantly, Chambers and her staff focus and celebrate the unsung heroines in our history who fought for every single person to have the right to vote. This beautifully illustrated book shares the work of 13 diverse women who fought to secure that right for all people to be able to vote regardless of race, nationality, or sexual orientation. Many of the women featured in this text were not even considered U.S. citizens, while they still pushed forward for everyone's right to vote. Helping the reader understand what suffrage looks like, exploring how white women historically left out women of color in the suffrage movement, and spotlighting the power of the language are all stories that are shared in this text. And as the authors quote Ida B. Wells Barnett in her chapter, "The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. Finish the Fight turns the light of truth on for many women who have not had their stories shared as prominently as they should be." Incorporating primary source materials and photographs throughout the book, Chambers and the New York Times staff detailed the suffrage movement through engaging narratives that champion the activism and perseverance of these brave, diverse women. And it is so important to note that the book reminds us the battle over who is fully included in American democracy continues.
I'm Jenny Schuessler.
I'm Amy Pagnani.
Sandra Garcia.
I'm Vivian Wang.
I'm Jennifer Hartland.
I'm Veronica Chambers, and we are the team from the New York Times that wrote Finish the Fight.
It means so much to us that our book, Finish the Fight, is being recognized as a Jane Addams Peace Prize honor book.
The battle for suffrage was waged by an army of women.
It took nearly 100 years. Victory was never promised.
Women weren't given the right to vote, they won it.
Suffragists were Black and white, Asian and Latinx.
Suffragists were immigrant and indigenous, queer and straight, and everything else.
It was hard to winnow down who we would focus on in the book, but it was important for us to celebrate Native American women such as Suzette LaFlèche-Tibbles and Zitkala Sa.
We were especially proud to write about women who used the power of journalism to further the cause. Women like Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin, Jovita Idar, and Ida B. Wells Barnett.
We loved that some of the suffragists were not much older than our readers, teenagers like Mabel Pinghua Lee.
We'd like to thank our editors on the book, Kwame Alexander, Margaret Ramo, and Erica Turner.
We were supported by our editors and colleagues at the New York Times, especially Monica Drake, Caroline Kay, Brian Gallagher, Nick Donofrio, Anika Burgess, and Lauren Manley.
2020 turned out to be not only the centennial, but also a powerful year to teach young people about the power and importance of voting.
The fight for suffrage was the fight for democracy, and it isn't over.
We hope Finish the Fight will continue to find new readers and that the story of American women and voting rights will inspire kids, parents, teachers, and librarians for years to come.
Thanks again to the Jane Addams Peace Prize for this incredible honor.
Hi, hola. My name is Josie Bustos Pelayo. I am one of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award committee members. The 2020 Jane Addams Book Award Honor Book, Land of the Cranes by Aida Salazar, published by Scholastic Press, is beautifully and poignantly written using free verse. 9-year-old Betita fled her native Mexico with her parents due to cartel violence against their family. She recounts her father's stories by describing her familia as a family of cranes that flew north to Los Angeles, Aztlán, the promised land. While working and waiting for their immigration court date, they live in fear of being deported by ICE. Betita goes through heart-wrenching separations, beginning with the deportation of her father, Soon after, Betita and her mother are taken to a detention center at the border. Day after day, harsh experiences are described by Betita about what is happening to her, her mother, and other asylum seekers who came escaping danger. They suffer hunger, cold, insults from the guards, while also finding allyship among other detainees in their fight to be free. Encuentra la dulzura en tu lucha. Find the sweetness in your struggle. These are the words that Betita hears in her papi's voice. What is remarkable about this story is how we see the transformation that Betita goes through. In the beginning, she is a fearful little girl who misses her dad and mostly hides under her mother's wings. While looking for the sweetness in her struggle, she discovers a way to fight from within the freezing walls of the detention center. One part of our criteria calls for dialogue about how people can work with compassion, empathy, and activism to advance Jane Addams' belief that achieving true peace means more than ending war. It means ensuring justice for all people. Betita learns this during her stay in the Hielera. Her mother reaches out to everyone by teaching and comforting children and the solitas, unaccompanied minors. These actions teach Betita and the reader that we must have compassion for those who are suffering. She begins to sprout her wings and find her voice after observing her mother's actions and the actions and words of a dreamer, Maricel, who also gets detained. She learns from Maricel about peaceful protest and about standing up for yourself, even in a place so cold and dark. Although Betita and her family are fictional characters, their stories in Land of the Cranes reflect the stories of many people trapped in our current immigration crisis. In recognition of the excellent writing and the lasting impact of its important themes, the Jane Addams Children's Book Award Committee is pleased to present the Jane Addams Children's Book Award honor in the Books for Older Children category to Land of the Cranes by Aida Salazar. Thank you.
Hello, I am Aida Salazar, the author of Land of the Cranes, and I'm here to extend my deep, deep gratitude to the Jane Addams Peace Awards for recognizing Land of the Cranes with an honor. It means a great deal to me because this award so aligns with the hopes woven into my work that strive for social justice, for equity, and for peace. Land of the Cranes is a difficult story. It's about an undocumented 9-year-old Mexican girl incarcerated in a modern-day concentration camp on U.S. soil simply for being a migrant. And she believes that all migrants should be free to fly like cranes across borders. And she uses her picture poems to soar above, to lift herself above the cruelty that she experiences while she's caged. I wrote this story during a time in our country when the 45th president was giving off all of this anti-immigrant rhetoric and dominating our popular consciousness. And as a formerly undocumented immigrant myself, who was born in Mexico and brought over as a baby, these attacks were personal. They were attacks on my immediate family and my communities, and they were so, so wounding. But the truth is that the criminalization of migration has a very long history in the United States and has afflicted different communities, from the Muslim ban to the Japanese concentration camps during World War II to Chinese Exclusion Act to Operation Wetback, and on and on. We're even seeing it displayed despicably on our streets against Asian Americans. So the target on immigrant communities has changed, but at no point has it ever been right. And what's more is that though there might be a change in administration, the urgency remains because it is still happening. And we, all of us, must do everything we can to stop it. As an arts activist, my writing has been the avenue through which I reject injustice. I believe writing revolutionary, transformative, inspirational books for children is one of the most important things that we could be doing during this time. I intended for Land of the Cranes to not only give readers a mirror for those who see themselves reflected in these pages, but also a window into the humanity the real children are experiencing in the U.S., but also to give readers a roadmap, the agency to take action. So through Betita's story and the use of her voice and her art to make a change, I hope readers are inspired to raise their own voices and shut down the forces that seek to render people a target of hate and cruelty or any less valuable and worthy of compassion and love. So thank you, Jane Addams Association, for the existence of this award, for honoring books, all of these books today, and for recognizing the intention of my book to make the world a better place. I'm so grateful and so moved. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Hello, I'm Andrea Maxworthy O'Brien from Madison, Wisconsin, chair of the 2020-21 Selection Committee. I wish to thank my co-chair, Janice Mateo Toledo, and all the members of the Selection Committee for not only their expertise and perspective, but their perseverance and flexibility in the face of all the challenges that 2020 presented. I am presenting the winner of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award for Younger Readers to We Are Water Protectors, written by Carole Lindstrom, illustrated by Michaela Goade, and published by Roaring Book Press. As we are connected and depend on each other, so the text and illustrations of this book work together to tell the story that warns us and urges us to act. The poetic text begins with Nokomis, grandmother, instructing the young girl that water is the first medicine. We come from water. It nourished us inside our mother's body as it nourishes us on Mother Earth. Water is sacred. But the water and land are threatened by the ominous black snake or oil pipeline that harms the land and renders the water unfit to drink. Who will stand against the black snake? The fierce young water protector, dressed in the traditional ribbon skirt of the Ojibwe, passionately rallies us against the harm of the pipeline. To stand for the water, to stand for the land, to stand as one. This powerful call to environmental activism was inspired by the Native American protest at Standing Rock against the Dakota Access Pipeline. The vivid, semi-translucent palette of illustrator Michaela Goade celebrates the flowing beauty of the sky, water, and earth, intensifying the power of the text while honoring the indigenous culture and community through attention to details like the woodland repeating floral patterns of the Anishinaabe. The author and illustrator notes further contribute to our knowledge of water protectors, indigenous culture and beliefs, and the importance of environmental activism. Finally, the last page of the book features an Earth Steward and Water Protector pledge for young readers to sign as a first step toward activism. In the spirit of Jane Addams, We Are Water Protectors calls for young readers to act on behalf of the global community to work for environmental justice. In recognition of a picture book that through words and illustrations reminds readers of all ages that water is sacred and necessary for our existence, that we are all connected and depend on each other, and that together we are all responsible for our earth. I am honored to present the Jane Addams Children's Book Award for Younger Readers to Carole Lindstrom and Michaela Goade.
I would like to say Abigail Mikwich. Thank you so much to Andrea Maxworthy O'Brien, Janice Mateo Toledo, and all the members of the selection committee for this humbling award. The Jane Addams Peace Prize means so much to me because it honors children's literature that works towards dismantling injustices, towards a more peaceful world. It is such an honor to receive this distinguished and important award that recognizes our book and the message that water is sacred and that we are all connected to each other and to Mother Earth. I am especially grateful this award allows for further recognition of Native peoples and what we are fighting to protect for all of us. And now I want to show you the journey of We Are Water Protectors and how it went from becoming, just notes and scraps and bits of paper to an actual book. And so, first thing was, of course, the idea when I heard about, Standing Rock and really Indigenous peoples fight around really the world to protect the water and the land. I just felt, I knew I needed to do something, but I didn't know what it was. And that's kind of when after reading so much, I knew that I had been, written children's books. So, and I have a previous picture book written. So I thought, well, maybe I could write a picture book or a children's book that could talk about these issues. So that's kind of where the inspiration came from. So then this is all my notes and scribbles, and I like to write with my hand. I always love to start in all my thinking with a pen. And really, that's how I think best is when I'm writing, because just so many thoughts come into me. It just seems they flow from my brain through my pen, really like a vein. And it comes out on the page. So I like to just think and write and scribble, and so you'll see, just a lot of different notes and any kind of paper, a lot of little Post-it notes, just any type of paper I can find. I write notes on. And then I start to type after I have some thoughts about how the story is going to go and what it's going to be. And that's when I start to type. And then I share my stories with my critique partners and friends that read my stories and give me their input. So then their input is usually something like this. And then I do a lot more scribbling and writing as I think through what they wrote to me. And here's some more really great comments from my wonderful critique partners that I would be totally lost without. Also, just a lot of notes here. So this is where it all starts, and then I share it with my agent. And then again, I'll take more notes. I write down everything we talk about on the phone. I just write everything down because I have to be able to refer back to it. I'm always afraid I'm going to forget something. So this is how my story begins, and then like I said, it goes on to typing, and then the drafts and the mini revisions that I make to it, and then it finally becomes something that we can send out to editors. And then, so that's what happened. We sent it out, of course, and then it was found Roaring Book Press, and then we found the amazing Michaela Goade and worked together. Her and I worked together really well, closely. I should say she's a dear friend of mine on the book, getting the, just the cultural details correct. And so that they were, appropriate for, since I'm Ojibwe and Michaela's Tlingit, we just wanted to be sure that, you know, she was very diligent about making sure that she got the cultural details as corrected in the story. So after that, and her illustrations were done, and then the book, the next thing I saw after, you know, her some sketches as we went is the what they call F&Gs, which are when they're folded and gusseted. So that's when you get to see the cover, which is exciting. And then in this case, there were two covers they shared with me. This one, which was what they call spot gloss, where just bits of the parts were gloss, not the entire cover. So it was just little pieces, maybe of the water and so forth, that had a glossy finish. And then the other cover is on the wall. I don't know if you can see it too well there, but, and then here are the folded and gusseted pages. So then I got a chance to take a look at it here to see how it really will look with the illustrations and the text together. And then, you know, if there were any changes to be made, that's when those were made. You know, maybe adding more details and or anything to the back matter just to get it all done and right. And then after that, I received the ARC, which is the advanced reader copy. And that's when you see it, you know, it starts to look like a book. It's soft copy, but everything kind of is, you know, together, and you see the page turns, and, you know, it feels like it's becoming more real. And then, of course, the next bit is when it becomes the actual book itself, and it has the hard back and so forth. So that was the journey of the book. I hope that was helpful. And again, I just want to say, Chain Mikwich, and thank you so much again for this very, very humbling award. It means so very much to me. So thank you.
I did just want to say a few words about being here today with you all. I'm in Sitka, Alaska right now, which is traditional Tlingit Ani, Tlingit country, Tlingit land, and I'm a member of the Tlingit Haida Indian tribes of Alaska. And I'm just really happy to be here. And I wanted to say Ganesh thank you to the Jane Addams Selection Committee for lifting up We Are Water Protectors for this honor, alongside all of these other brilliant books and creators who I admire. It's so encouraging and affirming, and I'm truly grateful. The research for We Are Water Protectors was intense and a bit of a roller coaster. I wanted to try to understand and wrap my head around the events of Standing Rock as best I could. And working on this book was quite a roller coaster as well. Lots of, you know, feelings of sorrow, frustration, anger, hope, courage. And I really wanted the art to speak to those themes while also appealing to children. And I felt that Carole's text handled it really beautifully, and I wanted to rise to the occasion and help amplify the story. I thought that cosmic, universal, and Mother Earth imagery would hopefully speak to a wider audience, and then layers of symbolism and tucked away details would hopefully help more Native readers feel seen. You know, and I was intimidated and spent a good deal of time thinking about whether I was the best fit for the story, because I feel like it's an important question to ask, especially working on stories by Indigenous authors and just marginalized voices in general. But I felt that if I could communicate a sense of Ya'at Une, which is respect for all things, I felt that I could do the story justice. And the 2016 gathering at Standing Rock was historic, and thousands of water protectors, both Native and non-Native, congregated in solidarity at the Sacred Stone Camp. It became the largest intertribal alliance in documented history, and it was my goal to speak to this unity and the diversity within that unity through different ages, skin colors, traditional regalia, and also contemporary clothing. And overall, I wanted to paint a rich tapestry of contemporary Indigenous people because we're so often fighting erasure and misrepresentation. And we are still here and still fighting, and in many different ways. Working on this book helped me more deeply understand art as activism and picture books as activism. And for that, I will always be grateful. And Standing Rock was sadly not an isolated event. The book needed to feel timeless in that sense. In our country, there's a long, dark legacy of land theft and broken treaties, of colonialism and its systematic attempts to eliminate. So I needed to speak to that. But there's also a long legacy of Indigenous resistance and Indigenous-led movements to protect our lands and ways of life, and yet the land and ways of life for all. So many of these fights are still ongoing, like the fights against Coastal GasLink, Keystone, Line 3 pipelines, alongside other fights for environmental justice. And here in Sitka, it's an ongoing fight to protect our herring population, which are a touchstone species for everything, our whole way of life here in Southeast Alaska, native and non-native. So we're fighting to protect it from commercial overharvest. And today I'm inspired by all of the youth we have. There's so many young folks who are at the forefront of environmental justice issues. And all the books I work on, I hope that Indigenous children leave the story feeling seen and celebrated, because they're so often told the opposite in our world. Additionally, it's vital that non-Native children see these stories centering Native peoples in a multitude of experiences. I was and am greatly honored to have helped bring this book to life and to be here with all of you today. It's affirming to know the whole book team helped raise awareness of environmental injustice and Indigenous rights, and it was a true team effort. So thank you to Carole for your story, to our agents and teams, and to the Rowing Brook team who really championed this book from the very beginning. And to the Standing Rock water protectors and water protectors everywhere, I claim Chish for your resilience and courage to fight for Mother Earth in the face of injustice, apathy, and violence. And thank you to all of our children who are our future, and to everyone who helped lift this book up. And again, to the Jane Addams Selection Committee, thank you. Chish.
Hello, my name is Janice Mateo Toledo, and I'm delighted to present A Wish in the Dark. A Wish in the Dark, written by Christina Soontornvat and published by Candlewick Press, is the winner of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award in the category for older children. A Wish in the Dark takes place in a Thai-inspired fantasy world where we meet Pang, a young boy who is the son of a female inmate born in Namwan Prison. The law requires that Pang remain there until he is 13 years old, and once released, will continue to be marked for life by a tattoo on his wrist. When Pang sees the opportunity to escape, he takes the chance, but lives in fear of being discovered. Nak, the daughter of the prison warden and a fierce firefighter, wishes to be the perfect daughter. She believes that if she captures the escaped prisoner, she will vindicate her father and win the approval of her parents. One day, she speaks to her father about the importance of following laws. Nak states, "If you work hard and follow the law, good things happen to you. The law is the light, and the light shines on the worthy." Her father tilted his head at her. "Where did you hear that?" "School," said Nak. "We're learning the governor's proverbs." "Ah, of course," he said dully. "I'd forgotten that one." Nak didn't see how. The same proverb hung on the wall at the prison where he worked. But this was before she was old enough to learn that her father actually spent as little time in the prison as possible. He cleared his throat and cleaned his glasses. "Sometimes things aren't as simple as they teach you in school." "What do you mean?" "Well, sometimes light shines on the worthy, but sometimes it just shines on the lucky ones. And sometimes," he looked over his shoulder at the east side, glittering like a rainbow across the river, "sometimes good people get trapped in the dark." As the novel unfolds, Nak questions her life in a wealthy family and begins to uncover how people are harmed by the governor's laws that control the city's power and all aspects of their life. Nak eventually decides to stand with Pang and for all people who are oppressed by the governor. Loosely based on Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, Christina Soontornvat
weaves a beautifully narrated fantasy novel filled with love, understanding, community, and compassion for the other. For creating a novel that encourages reader reflection and dialogue about structural social inequity and the role of protests in creating social change, I present the winner of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award in the Books for Older Children category to Christina Suntornvat. Congratulations.
Hello, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today, and I want to start off by thanking the Jane Addams Children's Book Award Committee so much for all of their work in judging the award this year. I know that this was not an easy year to add the committee work to your already busy plates, so I just appreciate you so much. The list that you put together this year is incredible, and it is an honor to be listed alongside authors whose work I admire, people like Aida Salazar and Veronica Chambers, people who have been shining a light in our industry for so long, like Cheryl and Wade Hudson, Alex Gino, Jason Reynolds, and so many more. I am humbled and grateful to be in their company. I believe that A Wish in the Dark is the first fantasy novel to be given the award for older readers, and that makes me so very happy because the books that turned me into a lifelong reader are fantasy books. I always have loved magical and fantastical stories. And fantasy stories have a long legacy of tackling important social topics in their pages. Sometimes the best way to look at problems in our own world is to examine it in a completely different and magical world. Now, for all of my love of fantasy, when I was a young child, books that I had access to were very limited to a white Western perspective. I did not read books by authors who represented me until I was out of high school. And I certainly didn't ever read fantasy that was set in an Asian place. So this is a double thrill to have A Wish in the Dark honored because it is set in a world that is inspired by a magical Thailand. I thought that I would give you just a little bit of background about the book and the inspiration for the book. If you've read A Wish in the Dark, you know that it is a twist on a, quote, classic novel, Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. And this is a book that I encountered for the first time when I was 10 years old. I did not read it when I was 10 years old. That would have been amazing. Actually, my mom was reading it, and we were on a family trip to Thailand, and she would read the book during the day and then recap it for me, summarize it for me every night. And then I read it for myself when I was in high school. This is a book that got me to ask a lot of questions about society, about justice, about the labels that we put on each other and the dangers of those labels. When I was in high school, we were not using the term privilege in the way that we are now, but this is a book that very much got me to examine my own privilege and my own assumptions that I make about other people. I would say that it was a transformative book for me. Now, if we flash forward to 2016, when I was sitting down to write a new middle grade novel, I had been thinking about exploring some of the themes in Les Miserables, but I just wasn't really sure how to go about it. I'm not certain when it clicked to me to set the world in a magical Thailand, but once I did, everything really started to flow. Maybe it was me remembering that trip when I was 10 years old, when we were in Thailand and I was hearing the story. I want to share a photograph with you. This is one of my favorite pictures of my dad and his brother and sister and other family members. This is taken at the airport when he was immigrating from Thailand to the United States. I have always loved this picture because it's just so 60s, like his suits and the Thai silk dresses with the beehive hairdos. And when I was writing A Wish in the Dark, the soundtrack that I put together was very much like hits from the swingin' 60s that my dad would listen to. His stories of growing up in Bangkok were always ones that I loved to hear. They were so magical to me. They were like my own version of fairy tales. At the time when my dad was a kid, Bangkok looked very much like the cover of this book. Bangkok, it's a city on the river where the river is the beating heart of the city. And it's very much still that way today in many ways. And so I set out to write the story of Pong and Nok. And Bong is very much based on my dad and his friends who would just run wild up and down the canals in Bangkok. And Nok is a girl who questions her own privilege and who starts to ask big questions about her own role in perpetuating inequality. And she is very much based on myself. People often ask me, what do you hope young readers take away from your book? What do you hope people learn when they read your book? I hope that they ask questions. I hope they have discussions. You know, I've been very lucky to have author visits, virtual author visits with schools during this time. And we had these fantastic discussions. You know, the kids are asking such pointed, brilliant questions, and they have such great ideas. They're really thinking deeply about these topics. As an author, I don't think of myself as a teacher. I don't think it's my role to teach my readers anything. What I want to do is write stories that empower them to follow their own best instincts and to follow their own innate goodness that I think that they have. Like Father Chum, who's a character in the book, I believe that we all have a light that's inside of us, and that light is compassion. And I believe that books, such as the books that we're here to honor today, are the fuel that lets that light burn bright. And I want to thank you all so much for all the work you do. You are shining a light for all of us all the time, and I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much.